Benvenuti, Maker 9601. And I say benvenuti because for those of you who subscribe to this channel and follow the sporadic videos that I do every once in a while on here on the internet, you probably notice that I'm in a different place than I normally am. Normally I am recording these intros from my studio in Florida. Today it's a little different background. I'm actually temporarily living in a city in the Tuscany region, Toscano of Italy, and I'm going to be here for a few months, and I'm happy to be here. I'm by myself mostly, and it's a chance to get some work done and a chance to have some quiet time, a chance to practice my Italian, which I'm not very good at, but I get by here, and also a chance to finish up edit some videos. I've got some other projects I'm working on that I need some quiet time for, so it's a good chance, and I'm grateful for the way that life has brought me to this beautiful place for a little while. So today's video is a little bit different for me, a little bit special for me, because it's about my home makerspace. Normally I go around and I visit makerspaces and meet makers who I didn't know before I got there. But this time I'm going to be bringing you some pictures and some interviews with people in the makerspace that I call my home makerspace. And it's a beautiful little spot in Tallahassee, Florida. It's called Making Awesome. We'll talk a little bit more about it as the video progresses, but for now let me give you a brief introduction to Tallahassee's community makerspace, Making Awesome.
Place where you have all the tools, space, people to help you learn how to do almost anything: woodworking, 3D printing, coding, laser engraving, jewelry making, you name it, we can do it here because someone knows how and they'll help you, and we have the tools to assist you. That's a really cool thing. So it's a really cool thing to be a part of. What am I interested in? I was really interested in Arduino. It's very cool. Just idea of physically programming something to do something in life. That's really fun. Of course, woodworking is always really interesting. And then 3D printing is really cool.
So one of the things that constantly comes up when you talk to entrepreneurs is creativity needs a space. It needs resources, and those resources are definitely space, definitely money, definitely time, but space is such a critical element. Then you also need the mentors. You need the people who've done it before, you need the people who are willing to try new things, and the people who know how to give constructive criticism. When you're an entrepreneur and when you're trying to make something new, I mean, you look at anything that you've done new, and it's nothing but mistakes over and over and over again. And so you're in a constant state of problem solving. Well, what in the world do people do at a makerspace like Making Awesome is they make things awesome. They make them better. And it just felt like such a perfect pairing to be with people who want to do cool things, who want to learn new things, who want to share what they know with other people, to have a company that focuses on knowledge transfer.
And just for the record, would you please tell me just what your company is called and how it's found on the internet?
Yeah, so our company is Proper Channel. We came up with a name because how do you get stuff done? You follow the proper channels, and it's properchannel.co. We're a startup. We can't afford the M, so it really is .co. Yeah, by all means, we have a free public tool, 100% free, like Wikipedia, visible to everyone, editable by everyone. So if there's something that you know how to do that you are tired explaining to someone else, by all means, go on there, make a guide, and then next thing you know, you've just been able to share your knowledge at scale with everyone else in the world.
And while sharing knowledge, knowledge transfer, and informal learning are important parts of the mission of Making Awesome, we also have some very cool classes. These photos are from different classes that were taught in the space over the last few months, and they have a nice training room. We actually have 2 training rooms, one for just general purpose, another one for the jewelry folks that teach classes in that area. If you're interested in taking a class or teaching a class, the best thing to do is to get on our Facebook group. You get on Facebook and look for Making Awesome and get signed up, be part of what's going on, or come by the space for one of our open houses.
Makerspaces tend to be, let's face it, most of the stuff we've got these days is half meant to be thrown out and or sent back to where you got it from. I mean, you're currently recording me on an Apple, on an iPhone, which they expect you to send back to the point where they.
I fixed my own. Thank you very much.
Where they brick, it's set up where it bricks now. If you decide to take it to somebody else, there's a lot of stuff that either we can do, know somebody who can do, or teach you to do yourself, that would cost hundreds of dollars in some cases.
Or more.
Yeah, or more.
Like all of our volunteer leadership in this space will wear several hats, and in addition to making sure that our space is safe and secure, and that our machines are maintained, and that the right people are using the right machines, Will is also the champion for a 100-watt laser cutter that the space acquired through a donation from a trophy shops, what you'd call them, and it sat in our old space. This building we're in now is our 3rd space, and I'll say a couple more things about that in a second. But that sat in our old space for a while because we didn't have proper ventilation and we didn't really have proper power running to it or anything like that. So when we moved to the new space about a year ago, Will took on getting this machine up and going, and here's a little bit from Will about the laser cutter and what it can do. And I think for me, it's the coolest machine we have in the space. And the next time I'm spending any time in Tallahassee, I want to go by and really learn how to use that thing, because I've got several projects in mind that I'd like to do with it.
Well, talk a little bit about this laser cutter you're sitting in front of, and I think one of the cooler tools here, and I'm so proud of you for getting it back and running and everything. Thank you so much for that.
All right, so this is a year 2000 model Epilogue Legend 32. It's a 100-watt infrared laser. And compared to the 40-watt we started off with, this thing is light years ahead of what we started with. We can, with enough power, we can cut wood, we can etch wood. We've done all sorts of tests with it. We've got we can actually work on much larger pieces, and in all 3 axes. This thing's the 40-watt only does 8 by 6 by 1. So 8 wide, 6 deep, 6 long, and inch deep at the best. The Epilogue, we can go all the way up to about 10 inches deep on an object.
Wow. Takes a long time, though, I suspect, at 10 inches.
Well, if we're trying to cut through it, that's an entirely different story. But if you're trying to do, like, personalizing the top of a box that's been made without having to disassemble it, we can throw, if it isn't too big, we can throw the entire box in there.
Cool.
We can also do up to, we're kicking around trying to get it to etch brass, but metals are kind of, it's 20 years old. The fact that it's still able to do as much as it can is a miracle unto itself.
Well, it just shows that Epilogue makes good products, I think, you know.
Oh yeah, we actually did a test board for our vector. Where as you can see, we did.
Wow, wow, wow.
Where what we do is we take the design and make it in colors.
Mm-hmm.
And each color has a set power and speed rating.
Ah, interesting, interesting. I see.
So we can do stuff. Unfortunately, the 40 watt was effectively a binary setup. Either the laser was on or the laser was off. This unit, we can actually reduce speed and increase power to make a cut darker, you know, to make an etching darker or deeper. Or if the material's thin enough, we can just as easily just cut straight through it.
So we're really lucky to have Will as our volunteer manager, like all of our leadership. Will's a volunteer, and we are just super fortunate that he has an interest in the space and cares about it and wants to be part of the community and wants to make things better. So it's a great thing. I mentioned that this is the third space we're in Tallahassee, and you know, like every other makerspace that I visited, whether they're commercial spaces, whether they're academic spaces, whether they're library spaces, the actual physical plant and getting a physical plant that works it's a challenge, and especially for community maker spaces that don't have a whole lot of resources or deep pockets behind them. In most cases, it's very difficult for those folks to find a space. So the first space we found in Tallahassee was a large warehouse, I think about 9,000 square feet. It was pretty wonderful. We had came with some nice features, but it was basically a big open room. And so that would cause two problems. One is that if one person was operating the power saw, for example, everybody was listening to that. You know, there was no definition of space, no separation of space, no separation of noise, and so, or dust. So that was a big problem. The second problem was when you have a big empty room like that, it tends to fill up. And people brought us so much stuff. I mean, I think one time we had 4 or 5 photographic enlargers that showed up at the space. We had all sorts of broken electronics, old typewriters, all sorts of stuff. And, you know, it was just basically clutter. You know, the idea was, well, we got all these parts that somebody can build something with, but, you know, it just, like any place else, having a lot of clutter just kind of drags you down. We moved after that to a little bit smaller warehouse, a little bit more centrally located, and it worked pretty well, but it had kind of the same problem. There was almost too much space, and again, it got cluttered. Things weren't very well organized because, you know, there wasn't a separate space for each of the different activities. They had to share spaces. Noise was a problem between the different areas because they weren't really physically separated except by curtain walls and stuff. And in this new space, while it's quite a bit smaller than where we started, it has several huge advantages, and the biggest one being is that there are separate rooms for separate activities, so that the wood shop's in a space by itself, and you know, Dan, the manager of the wood shop, the lead for the wood shop, is doing a great job of keeping the space organized and clean, and making sure that people that use it respectfully and safely and so on. Right next door is a machine shop. It's run by Mr. Charles Davis, and if you haven't seen the video about Charlie that I posted several months back, you ought to go back and look for it. And Charlie's an awesome dude. He's a guy that gives of his time and his talent, and especially willing to help people learn about his domain, which is machine work. A really excellent person. We have a jewelry shop, which is really well equipped. It's got you know, pretty much everything you need to work with gold and silver and precious stones and so on.
Hey, I've been a local artist for probably 30 years, and I belong to the Florida Society of Goldsmiths, and I belong to Making Awesome. Making Awesome allows us to both have the Florida Society of Goldsmiths meet here and also use the shop and to hold classes. And Making Awesome itself, our members also can use the studio and make objects and jewelry. We assist with all of the Making Awesome events.
So now we're so happy to have them because some amazing work comes out of that shop. They're training a lot of people. It's really a good thing for us. We have the classroom that I showed you earlier. We have a space for 3D printing, for electronics. We have the laser cutter that I just showed you. In fact, 2 laser cutters. 3D printers, I think there's one that's working really well right now and a couple that are kind of hobbling along and a few more that are in sick bay. We have a server rack. We have sewing machine. We have a really awesome sewing machine. It came with the building. It belongs to the landlord. It's a commercial sewing machine that's just, you could make a tent with it or make a backpack or sails for a sailboat. It's an incredible machine. I think there's a picture of it maybe that I'll throw into this video. And just a bunch of other stuff, a vinyl cutter, all kinds of die cutting machine, all kinds of stuff.
I'm Caitlin. I'm the social media manager here for the Makerspace.
Awesome. And tell me about what attracts you to this space and to this world and all that sort of stuff.
I would definitely say the community that we've managed to build over the years, as far as just getting crafters of various stripes here. And being able to work together on different projects and things of that nature.
Cool. And what's your particular interest in what's your craft? What do you like to do?
I do mostly kind of on the fiber art side of things, so things more like macrame, cross stitch, needlework, things of that nature.
And have you thought about teaching that to other people, or have you done that here?
I actually have. I'm actually in the works of talking with our event coordinator to be able to set something up next month.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to be out of town, but I wish I could come and be here for that. Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Sure.
So Caitlin, like many other people that I've interviewed at Makerspaces at my travels, mentioned community. And I want to say that community is probably one of the most important things for me in my life, but also around the Makerspace movement. I appreciate not just the community of makers within my own local makerspace and Making Awesome in Tallahassee, but makers around the world who cooperate with each other on a pretty regular basis. We've been in projects in the past with a makerspace from the UK. Just in Tallahassee, we worked together on a Space Apps challenge one time some years ago. And there's also a great organization called Nation of Makers. I'll be talking about them more in the future, but for now, it's going to be the end of this little adventure with my friends and my community in Tallahassee. I really encourage you to stop by if you live in Tallahassee or you're traveling through and are interested in makerspaces. Please come by to see us. Please come by and come to one of the open houses. You can find out about them if you go to the Facebook group. Now, there's, it's a complicated world we live in. There are Facebook pages and Facebook groups, and for Making Awesome, I guess the best source of information is, at least from my perspective, is always the Facebook group. So please enjoy. If you have ideas, things I ought to do, places I ought to go, questions, comments, concerns, please be in contact. If you haven't already, I would just so much appreciate you clicking the subscribe button. You won't be annoyed very much. I don't get these out very often. I have a few more that I'm going to do while I'm here in Europe, but you don't get to hear them very often, and I try not to be too irrelevant to the maker movement. So, well, that's it for today. My name's Dave, coming to you from the beautiful region of Tuscany in Italy tonight, but hope that wherever you are, things are good, and buonanotte. Arrivederci.